centering on the phrase, the art of saying thank you. I think it's easy to forget how important the words thank you are. To say them, and then to hear them from somebody else. I mentioned a couple times, a few weeks ago, my niece Sarah, my late wife Jude's niece and Debbie Farrell's niece, she lives in Logan Square, and their apartment building caught on fire and she lost everything. I mean, her apartment was burned, she lost all her clothes, her cat, and she's an artist and she lost all of her artwork. And as soon as I mentioned it, one of the guys from the men's club said, Don, $500 now. So we voted 2-0 to send $500 to Sarah. Then there was the love bucket, and there were a few hundred more dollars in the love bucket. You know, it's interesting, and you've seen this happen in your life, that oftentimes we give money to people you don't know. And you'd be surprised how often we do not get a thank you letter. It probably happens in your life too. You give something to somebody and you kind of wait for a thank you and you kind of go, huh? Well, anyway, the other day, Sarah comes to the church. And she comes with a very warm thank you letter, which I taped to the door of the church. And in honor of the gift, she actually drew an original piece of artwork. It wasn't one she saved, it was one she drew since the fire. And her piece of artwork and the thank you note are on the door. Because she said, I'm not very good with words, but I want to thank you with this piece of art. And that's when I began thinking of the art of saying thank you. Because saying thank you is an expression of who we are. When you say thank you to somebody, it touches their soul and it kind of lifts you up. When you hear thank you from somebody else, it just makes you feel like $1,000,000 because it knows that even though that's not why you did it, you feel appreciated. Thank you is an acknowledgement that we are in this journey called life together. I mentioned Thursday night a small incident that I haven't forgotten about. It was when I was a kid, and I had a neighbor named Wally. And Wally worked at the local gas station, and he retired, and he and his wife went on a small vacation. And so I decided it would be nice if I took my dad's lawnmower and went down and cut Wally's grass. And so I did. And I couldn't wait till Wally got home and saw his freshly cut lawn, knowing that I did it. And I couldn't wait for him to come to my house and say thank you. Well, he didn't come to my house to say thank you. I would walk by and, hey, Mr. Wally, how you doing? Oh, your house, oh, your lawn, Mr. Wally, looks great. But he never, ever said thank you. So my dad, seeing that I was upset about that, used this as a teaching moment, thinking that I might go into the ministry and use it as a sermon idea. He said to me, Don, why did you cut Mr. Coleman's grass? You did it because you couldn't wait for him to come and say thank you, because you wanted to be noticed. You wanted people to know that you were the one that did it. And I guess my motives weren't exactly that pure, but it really would have been fun as a kid to hear the word thank you. I had a wedding yesterday, and it was an older couple. They were both in their 50s. And they have both been around the block, and they did their own vows. And at the end of the bride's vows to her husband, she said this. She said, I want to thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. And there was just stunned silence as she said that. I don't think there's any greater gift than to be able to believe in yourself. But when you have those moments when you don't believe in yourself, to be in love with somebody who lifts you up, who believes in you when you can't do it by yourself, is one of the greatest of all gifts. Do you ever see somebody after a long period of time, and then when you see that person, you're reminded how fast time goes and how things can change? Well, at the wedding yesterday, I saw the father of the groom. The father of a groom has been a fixture in the Orland community for years. He was tall, handsome, a legend as a high school and college basketball player. And I walk up to the father of the groom, and he's wearing gym shoes and a sports shirt and a flower. He has 2 canes, and he looks at me and he says, "Do I know you?" I almost wanted to cry. I said, "Bill, I've known you for 45 years. And then I thought to myself, "Don, why don't you practice what you're going to preach tomorrow?" And so I said, "Bill, I am so honored to do your son's wedding. And I want to thank you, Bill, for all the stuff you've done in our community over the years to make Orland a better place." And he looks at me again and he says, "Don, it's really good to see you." Because somehow the word thank you opened his eyes and opened his heart to who he was. And today I must admit that my heart and soul is with my mentor, the Reverend Walt Ledegar from Christ Lutheran Church. Walt is retired, at least he's supposed to be. I remember a few months ago I called Christ Lutheran Church, and Walt answered the phone. And I said, "Walt, I thought you were retired. Why are you answering the phone?" "Because I know, Don, that if I don't answer the phone, you think you're the senior pastor in Orland Park." And I am. Well, when his wife died a few months ago, I went to the funeral and I saw Walt. He's kind of bent over. He doesn't talk very clearly. He has Parkinson's. And now I find out he's in intensive care at Northwestern Hospital in Chicago. When I go visit him tomorrow or Tuesday, I'm going to look him in the eye. And I'm going to say, "Walter, I want to thank you for believing in me when as a young whippersnapper I came in here in 1974 and 1975. I want to thank you for all you've done for this community. And I want to thank you for all your long sermons because you make me look good in my short sermons." One of my favorite Walt Ledegar stories, which has nothing to do, but I'm just trying to fill time here. Bob Hord, who's an institution in Orland Park with the Andrew Foundation, passed away, and I did his funeral here at the church. And his son asked me, he said, "Don, Pastor Ledegar and my dad were very good friends. Would it be okay if Pastor Ledegar is a part of the service?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'm going to have him read the gospel." And I said, "By the way, at the funeral, I guarantee you, it will take Pastor Ledegar longer to read the gospel than for me to preach the eulogy." So it came time for the gospel, and Walter gets up. He introduces the gospel. He explains the gospel. He gives people notes about the gospel. And 12 minutes later, he's still doing it. And I saw his son, I said, "See, I told you so." Walter is a beautiful man. And I thank him for what he's brought to this community. You see that guy named Bill? That could be me someday. And that guy named Walt? That could be me someday. And all I know is this: Jesus healed 10 lepers. Only one of them turned around to say thanks. And I have more shortcomings than all 10 lepers put together. But when it comes to living our daily lives, I hope all of us are the one person that turns around to say thanks to those who give unto us. And by the way, Wally up there in heaven, I just want you to know that I was the one who cut your grass. And I'm glad that you did not say thanks, because that led to me discovering what's important in life and what's not. Amen. If you're able to, please rise. The creed is on page 105.